two big dreams when I was little: to be a mother and to have a career as a singer and an actor, which didn't seem unreasonable until striving for one threatened the other. Lin-Manuel Miranda was developing a new musical.
So I pushed play on this demo.
And I was just like, fuck, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. I gotta go to this audition tomorrow morning.
I knew that there was no way they were giving me this job.
It's like an ingenue role. I'm too old for that.
She walked out of there and I went, holy shit. For the first time, the song felt like an evolution of a thought process. Her mouth racing as fast as her mind.
And Lynn said, let's go change the world.
This is one of those nights you feel the world start to change. The earth shake a little bit.
I've never had to sacrifice so much personally to be in the room. I'm the only mom in the cast.
Good night, Mommy. I love you.
Just messed up my rap and Satisfied.
This was the show that you said, well, this is what I'm gonna do forever.
I know. She said you're gonna be okay. And I was. Here are some of my battles, lost and won.
Who I really am, who I really am.
Good afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits. This is a special edition about the Tribeca Festival 2024. My Harlem Portraits is a show that wants to shed a light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans and on Black excellence. This movie we're going to talk about, Satisfied, it's having its world premiere at the Tribeca Festival in the Spotlight Plus section. And the directors are Melissa HAIZLIP and Chris Bolan. We are joined now by director Chris Bolan. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here.
So your films is a very intimate look at the life-changing moments and experience of the award-winning actress Renee Elise Goldsberry, who had the lead role in Hamilton. And during her struggle to have a family and to be able to balance a career with a family, which is always very difficult, while she was starring in the Tony Award-winning Hamilton. So what inspired you and how did you decide to make this film together with Melissa?
Yeah, so it was a multi-stage kind of process, Maria, with how this film came to fruition. My film, A Secret Love, had just premiered on Netflix in 2020, and I was looking for my next project. And then, of course, the lockdown happened. And so the world shut down. Renee happened to move close to me, and a dear friend of mine, Kelly O'Hara, who's a phenomenal Broadway actress, multiple Tony Award-winning nominated actress, she introduced me to Renee, and they came over to my house because a friend of mine was teaching an outdoor tap class on our front lawn, socially distancing, right? Trying to find creative ways. And so Hamilton was about to drop and to launch on Disney Plus, and Renee was talking to Kelly out on my front lawn and kind of lamenting the fact that she had wished that she had done more with all of this behind the scenes footage that she had captured during the making of Hamilton, and how she had wished that she had done a documentary and how she had wished she had met a documentary filmmaker. Kelly said, well, you just happen to be sitting at my friend's house. He makes documentaries. Why don't the two of you talk? So I came out in my robe and my sandals and I, with a camera, and because I was filming the kids tap dancing, and Kelly introduced me to Renee. We hit it off. We had a series of very long Zoom conversations to see if there was in fact something there. And after, multiple conversations, Kelly and Renee and I felt that we really had something special. So we started to move forward into the development phase of it, Maria. And then a year later, we got a production company on board. I was introduced to Melissa HAIZLIP. I loved her film, Mr. Soul. We had met. I wanted to make sure this team was really representative of everybody, all different aspects of this film. I am a father, I'm a parent. I had a wife on Broadway. I had been on Broadway myself, so I understand that grind, but I'm not a woman, and I'm not a woman of color. And so I really wanted somebody to help me tell this story. Melissa had a background in theater. She's used to working in a very collaborative way, as I was. We're both relatively new filmmakers. This film really resonated with her. I loved meeting her. And she just seemed like that last piece of the puzzle that would make this the perfect fit. And so we took a leap of faith, and we all just took a step off that cliff. And 4 years later, we're very lucky and honored to be having this premiere at the Beacon Theater.
Fantastic. This is a very interesting story, the way you met and how everything coincided. This is very good. The movie, the film opens on Renee Elise talking about her two big dreams since she was a little girl. Having kids, having a family, and acting, singing, being in the performing world. This is how it starts. And then she says, I'm going to talk about the battles I had, the lost ones and the won one. How did you touch on all these battles and on the struggle that she was living at the time?
Yeah, it's a good question, Maria. You know, her life is so full and so rich, and there's so many experiences that she's lived through that you know, we really had to try to focus it in on a certain period of time.
Yes.
And so we decided to focus it in on her journey through the making of Hamilton, because that was a particularly wrought period of her life with a lot of stuff going on. We wanted to make sure that also that she wasn't overshadowed by Hamilton. This is not a documentary or a film about the making of Hamilton. This is the story of a woman, a mother, a wife, an artist going through this thing called Hamilton. So, you know, and we know we wanted to go back in time a little bit. She had you know, she's very open about it, which is just incredible, about all of her miscarriages.
Yes.
And women, and especially celebrities, they don't want to show those difficult parts. They only want to show the shiny parts of their life. And Renee didn't. She was open to showing all of the struggle, which was such a gift to us as filmmakers. And so, you know, she had just gotten home from adopting this child in Ethiopia right before Hamilton. So we had to put that in. And then, you know, she had been having this fertility struggle for years. She finally has this family, right? And so we started there, and knowing that also we had to go back in time a little bit, because when she was in The Color Purple, she had a really, really, really traumatic experience with another miscarriage that was really hard. And so we were trying to keep the thrust between 2014 and 2016 and going back in time only when we felt absolutely necessary. And that time was when she had that miscarriage in The Color Purple. And then 2008, when she had the subsequent birth of her first child, Benjamin, in Rent. So that takes us we weave back and forth a little bit all the way to her Tony win at the end. And
this weaving back and forth is actually really fantastic. It gives a lot of spice to this movie, because you are following her life, but her life is punctuated by episodes that happened before that have had such an impact on her now. And that's why, of course, you were compelled to go back there.
Exactly, Maria. That's exactly right. Everything that she'd experienced in the past informed who she was during the making of Hamilton. So to your point, we have to talk about it, because it made her who she is. Exactly right.
And it is, I love the beginning also, when she's struggling, as you said, they just came back. They were trying to have the second child. The second child didn't arrive. They had Benjamin. They go and adopt this little girl in Ethiopia. They come back and she says, finally, I have my family. I'm happy. My two kids, my husband, he's a lawyer, he's working. I'm taking care of the kids. And Hamilton, people from Hamilton call for a workshop to ask her to go and read for a workshop. And she says, no, I have my family now. I have what I wanted. I'm happy. I don't want. And she keeps on answering no until they say, no, her agent says, listen to the demo of Lin-Manuel Miranda, this song, Satisfied. And she listens to it and she falls in love with that and she goes to the audition. Then she goes back. In your movie, you talk about when her and her husband met. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so her, religion is a very important part of Renee's life, and as for Alexis also. So they met in a church. It's funny. This didn't make the movie, Maria. So here's a little behind the scenes, but it's a funny story. So they had actually met at a big mega church. Renee had just finished a relationship, and Alexis saw her and was immediately smitten. And so went over to Renee and said, "Hi, I'm Alexis Johnson. Nice to meet you." And she was like, "Oh, he's cute," and then just never called him back. Never called him back. And so Alexis was like, "Well, I tried." And then 2 years later, they meet again at the same church, or he calls her back up. They meet again, and anyway, as fate would have it, she said, "Oh, this time I'll give it a shot," and that's it. They fell in love. They got married, and so Alexis was pursuing a life as an attorney and finishing that. Renee was trying to write an album. She's also a proficient, amazing singer-songwriter. In fact, the music that we have in the film, she wrote a lot of it, which is incredible.
Oh, wow.
So she had her career going, and Alexis had their career going, and they just kind of they just matched, and you can see that in the film. They're just such a deep love and compassion, understanding, and patience for each other. It's beautiful. Yeah,
it is amazing also because she says it when she talks to you about meeting her husband. She says, "But he didn't know what I was doing. He didn't know what I do.
Right.
So what if he is falling into something he doesn't want to?"
Right.
And that shows
she talks. Yeah.
She is very she's always analyzing herself.
Oh my God, yes.
Always taking herself apart to see if she's doing things in the right way, in the perfect way, because she's perfect. Right.
That is such an astute observation. That's amazing that you gleaned that from the film. It makes me feel proud.
Very
She
good.
is that exactly, Maria. She is that to a T. She is whip smart. She is a perfectionist. She knows what she wants. She's honest about it. Yes, exactly right. So yeah, she didn't want to deceive Alexis. You hear her say in that scene with Alexis, "I needed somebody who could carry my purse on the red carpet and also love me when I'm unemployed and I don't have a job." and she goes, "Who can do that? This man can."
Yeah.
And Alexis, the humble, quiet man, he just kind of laughs, and he's there to support her and lift her up. It's great. Yeah.
And I mean, he falls in tears really when you talk to him, and he says that he fell in love with her immediately. And then when he sees her performing, he talked about Shadowlands and The Lion King and The Color Purple. He said, "She's a superwoman. She's my woman."
That's right.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, he used to say he was so endearing filming because he's not an actor, and he's on front of the camera, and I just said, "Just be yourself. You're so charming, Alexis. Just be yourself." And he goes, "Well, I'm not really emotional. I'm not going to cry or anything." I said, "That's okay. You don't need to cry." And then he just broke down.
Exactly.
Yeah, he did that. He did that a lot. It was just beautiful. He just loves her so much. Yeah. And every person's going to fall in love with him.
Yeah.
In the film.
I mean, every woman is going to want to meet someone like him,
Yes. Like I said, he makes all of us other husbands look terrible. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So let's go back to when she accepts, because she didn't even know it was an audition. She knows she was going for a reading, and then they take her for the public theater because Hamilton is setting up at the public theater as off-Broadway. And there she starts again with her doubting. Am I doing the right thing? Should I stay home with my family? My husband is a lawyer, he has his career. How can he take care of my kids also? So she's always in this guilt system that must be devastating. And when she doesn't hear about Broadway, about off-Broadway, she's in a sense pretty happy because you say, okay, I got my family. I don't need anything else. That's it. And then he calls, Lin-Manuel Miranda calls. They start all the performances in the public theater. And let's tell me a little bit about that moment between the public theater and then going to Broadway, because this is the moment where she says, you go back to that time where she had the miscarriage during The Color Purple, but also she goes to the moment in which she played Mimi in Rent. And that is an amazing moment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so her fertility story, it lasted over a decade, and you hear it in her Tony speech. She's tried for decades to have this family and birth this career. So yeah, she hadn't heard back after the workshop about the public theater, about off-Broadway. And instead of dwelling on it, she goes, well, to your point, Maria, I've got my beautiful children, I've got my family, I'm going to give me time to focus on this. This is great. And we go back in time a little bit to The Color Purple. And that was a time where she was juggling a Broadway show and being on a soap opera. And she was breaking boundaries in that soap opera. It was the first time really on a soap that a interracial relationship was really highlighted between her and Michael Easton. You hadn't really seen that before. So she was already breaking boundaries, which was really cool. And then she was going and playing Nettie in The Color Purple, 20 minutes on stage at night. She had gone 5 months pregnant. So this is the longest she'd ever carried. And so she thought this pregnancy was going to come to fruition. And sadly, she lost the baby. And that was a really, really, really tough part of her life. And Alexis, it was hard for both of them, right? But rather than giving up in classic Renee fashion, she just kept pushing. And she knew what she wanted to do. And so we fast forward to 2008. He's now been asked to star as Mimi in Rent, and finish the performance, close out the show. And she's hanging upside down in Rent. And she finds out after she goes home, she goes, am I pregnant? And she goes home and takes a pregnancy test, and she's pregnant. And that ends up being Benjamin. And so out of this tragedy 3 years earlier, 3 years later, this miracle happens. She didn't think she could have a baby, and she has Benjamin. And it's the most beautiful moment. And her and Alexis are so happy. And yeah, so Benjamin comes into the world, and then we come back in time to her journey through Hamilton. Yeah.
And there she talks about, again, she only can see her family at breakfast. That's the only time she has, because she has 12 hours shift in Hamilton. Yeah. They work all the time. She's tired. She's always on the edge. And she says at a certain moment, I'm always on the edge, hoping my parachute will open.
Yeah, I love that line.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's Renee and I and Melissa, we've all spoken about this. It's like nothing good ever comes out of playing it safe. You got to take some risks sometimes in life. You got to get out into the skinny branches. Me and Renee, I would always talk about that. And so, yeah, that really resonated with me. She's made me a better artist and a better person. Just taking a leap of faith, as you said, Maria, taking that, hoping that her parachute opens, just taking the dive and hoping it opens. She's doing that with us, trusting us to make this documentary. It's a very, very vulnerable thing for a celebrity to open their life up like that. But she's done it in her career, both personally and professionally. And so she did it. And it paid back in dividends for her. And that kind of, that risk, that trust, that faith that it's going to be okay, serves her well. That's why she's the success that she really is.
Yes.
Mhm.
And here the moment that I do understand so much, the guilt.
Oh, yeah.
She feels guilty. She says at a certain point, who are you like talking to herself? Who are you letting down? Is the sacrifice I'm doing worth it? And who is paying the price? Talking about her kids who don't see her enough, her husband who's taking care of the kids while working. And then she also says, and I also have the feeling that I'm missing out always on something. But at the same time, I'm very happy because I feel we won the lottery by being in Hamilton, because this show is so amazing.
Right.
You showed this so well. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, you know, Marianne, thank you. I mean, you really took in this film in a way that's really nice. You know, you picked up on all these little things. So, yeah, I mean, what we never wanted to do as filmmakers is we didn't want it ever to feel like, oh, poor me, Hamilton, my life is so hard.
Yeah.
And people from the outside look, oh my God, you're this Broadway Tony Award winning actress in this fantastic musical. You know, 99% of actors out there are unemployed. I mean, you know, so we didn't want to come across as ungrateful. She's not like that as a person, but she also wanted to be honest about the duality of that. Like, yes, I am enjoying this amazing thing. My dream is coming true in my career, but now my other dream of my family is starting to suffer a little bit. And I'm feeling guilt around that. And we would have conversations at length how men, myself included, of course we have guilt. I'm a father. I went away doing things when my son was little, and I felt guilt. But I think it resonates different with women, with mothers.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes there's a taboo, there's a prejudice, there's a judgment against women for pursuing career, where men, we are not looked at that. They're like, go do it. And even in Hamilton, Maria, there's the song, I'm Not Gonna Give Up My Shot, that Alexander Hamilton sings, and they applaud him.
Yeah.
And Renee sings a song about sacrificing, I'm going to give up the man that I love for my sister, and that's applauded. So women are applauded for sacrificing, men are applauded for go for it. And so we wanted to like show that in this film, and that conflict, and Renee striving to have balance for both, and ultimately she wins, which is great.
Wonderful. The last thing I wanted to talk about is while she is at the public theater and the show is now going to Broadway, she finds out she's pregnant again.
Yeah.
So she keeps it a secret for a while, and then she says, she does her, count and says, but no, because I will be too pregnant by the time the show goes to Broadway, so I have to give up Broadway because I'm having this child.
Right.
And then not so long after, when she's ready to call her agent and tell her, I can't take Broadway because this happened, she finds out, her doctor tells her she's lost the child.
Right.
So she's back again. She's on Broadway now. So it's always this terrible, do I do it? Don't I do it? Do I do it? Don't I do it?
Yeah.
I mean, she was exhausted. She was exhausted. You could see it. And I think what she's doing with this movie is she had to share with others. She had to take this exhaustion out and make something of it to help others go through it, go and help others get through it.
I really hope, this film resonates with women, with parents, with fathers and mothers everywhere. Regardless if you're an actress or a star or a celebrity, you can be a nurse, a teacher, a firefighter, a police officer, it doesn't matter. Women all over the world are going through some version of this. And I love that you say that, because I think it's a universal thing that we can all relate to in some capacity by watching Renee. And the gift that Renee gave us is that she's opened up herself. and shed a light on that we often don't talk about. And I don't see it a lot with women, talking about, infertility or missing their period, or, it's important. And I, Renee is just, again, we're just such a gift that we were given this opportunity to make this film about her.
On these words, thank you so much for this conversation. And best wishes for this opening, for this premiere. I know it's gonna be fantastic. And thank you for my viewers. See you next time at another episode of My Harlem Portraits. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you, Maria. It was a pleasure.
I had two big dreams when I was little, to be a mother and to have a career as a singer and an actor, which didn't seem unreasonable until striving for one threatened the other.
Lin-Manuel Miranda was developing a new musical.
So I pushed play on this demo.
And I was just like, fuck, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. I gotta go to this audition tomorrow morning.
I knew that there was no way they were giving me this job.
It's like an ingenue role. I'm too old for that.
She walked out of there and I went, holy shit. For the first time, the song felt like an evolution of a thought process. Her mouth racing as fast as her mind.
And Lynn said, let's go change the world.
This is one of those nights you'll feel the world start to change. The earth shake a little bit.
I've never had to sacrifice so much personally to be in the room. I'm the only mom in the cast.
Good night, Mommy. I love you.
Just messed up my rap and satisfied.
This was the show that you said, well, this is what I'm gonna do forever.
I know. She said you're gonna be okay. And I was. Here are some of my battles, lost and won.
Who I really